In the words of Johan Cruyff, it is statistically proven that players actually have the ball 3 minutes on average. So, the most important thing is, what do you do during those 87 minutes when you do not have the ball? That is what determines whether you are a good player or not. The creation and closure of spaces is a recurrent subject in observation-based tactical analysis, yet it remains highly unexplored from a quantitative perspective. During the last 2 decades, successful elite soccer teams have been increasingly adapting possession-centered playing styles, especially within Spanish, English and German leagues. Beyond the basic idea of simply controlling the ball as much as possible, these strategies comprise of a large set of on-ball and off-ball actions to generate better scoring chances. Some of these are creating superiorities, numerical, positional or qualitative, creating disorder on the opponent's defense through movement and team collaboration, building up plays from the goalkeeper, and executing passes with offensive intention, among many others. Above all these actions there is a main underlying concept, the generation and occupation of spaces. Pep Guardiola once said, "We have to pass the ball, yes, but with clear intention. Pass it to drag players to one side and creating space in the opposite side. Then, move the ball there. That's our game." A more complex concept is that of space generation. We define the generation of space as the action of dragging opponents out of certain areas to create new available space in previously covered areas. Specifically, we identify situations where a player drags an opponent away from another teammate whom the opponent was close to originally. The dragging concept is, at its simplest, creating space for a teammate by pulling their defender towards oneself. The figure presents an example of both space occupation and space generation during an official Spanish First Division match. The 3 images show a process where Andres Iniesta moves to clear up space away from the ball and then attacks a high-value space inside the box. When he moves to this space he drags 3 defenders towards himself while also receiving a pass. The attraction of the 3 defenders leaves open space for Lionel Messi, who in this newfound space receives a pass free of a mark, and subsequently sends a lob pass onwards for Suarez, who meanwhile was running towards the goal line in search of space of value to score. Modeling pitch control. Pitch control is a recurrent concept in the analysis of space dominance in team sports. It can be defined as the degree or probability of control that a given player, or team, has on any specific point in the available playing area. The emergence of player tracking data has given rise to different pitch control, or dominant region, models. A widely applied model is the Voronoi tessellation, which takes into account the position of all players on the field and calculates the closest player to each given spatial point, finding dominant cells for each player. Player influence area. Depending on their location in time, players might have different levels of influence on nearby zones. When a player is far away from the ball his level of influence can be understood as a wider area, based on the reasoning that if the ball moves towards the player he would have a more time to reach the ball within a larger space. On the opposite, when closer to the ball, the player has less possibilities of reaching the ball if it moves from its current location. Also, the player's velocity plays an important role in defining the area of influence. A player at running speed might have more influence in the areas in the direction of speed compared to if they were walking or jogging. Further, the player may have higher levels of influence in close spaces than in farther spaces. The player's influence likelihood is then defined as the normalization of F at the given location P by the value of F at player's current location as shown in equation. Modeling team pitch control. A pitch control model that summarizes the level of influence of every player, and outputs a degree of control for any part of the pitch. Equation 2 presents the pitch control level at a location P at time t, where INJ refers to the index of the player in each opposing team. Here the logistic function transforms the subtraction of the accumulated individual influence area of each team into a degree of control within the range. Quantifying pitch and space value. Although the control of space is a fundamental element to identify occupation and generation of spaces, we still need an additional part of the equation, the value of space. The sole fact of moving for finding better passing options is an advantage itself. However, it can be easily argued that not every space has the same value. A trivial method for determining the value of space is its distance to the opponent goal. It's well known that spaces near the goal have an increased value, given the advantage that would provide to dominate them. But exploring more deeply into the dynamics of soccer, and based on the opinion from FC Barcelona expert analysts, it can be also argued that the value of space changes dynamically depending on multiple positional factors, such as the position of the ball and the players. Based on this, we propose learning the sum influence that a defensive team would have in a given location on the field, given the location of the ball as the equation. Occupation and generation of spaces. Previously, we approached the occupation and generation of spaces as actions focused on the improvement of the quality of team positioning, with the purpose of reaching better goal-scoring chances. The quality of positioning of a given player is then related with having the best possible control of the space, and doing so for spaces with higher value. We could then express the quality of owned space Q as a function of the level of ownership, control, PC, and the value of space V, as presented in equation. Space occupation gain. Now that we have the necessary tools to represent the value of space ownership in a given time, we can define a model for identifying gain in space occupation in time. We propose the space occupation gain concept as the relative amount of quality of owned space earned during a time window. Given the dynamic nature of football, players are involved in a continuous process of winning and losing space. A small gain of space can happen when the nearby defenders follow the ball when it moves away from the player, leaving the player a better control of space. However, the same can happen in a high-speed running situation between the attack and the defender, where the attacker is moving slightly faster. In another case, a medium or high gain of space can happen when the player moves towards a free space. Given this, it is necessary to define a level of space gain from which the earned space can be considered an actual occupational advantage and not a consequence of slower moving contextual factors in a given situation. Match analysis. The ability to create and occupy spaces are two commonly trained concepts in modern soccer. During training, coaches interrupt and reshape individual drills to teach players how to orient and move toward spaces and away from low-value local zones on the field. When analyzing off-ball performance, coaches appeal to video analysis. Although elite soccer analysis staff typically have a great capacity to understand complex concepts through match visualization, the dynamics of space creation are so frequent and happen in such short time windows that it becomes impractical for video analysts to grasp them all, even for a single match. However, it's important to note that there is no existence of ground truth data regarding the quantification of spaces in soccer. Hence, we have performed an extensive validation of the developed concepts through video and studying individual situations within games, with the help of two expert soccer video analysts from FC Barcelona, in order to fine-tune our quantitative approach. The following videos are examples of the video-based validation tool we have used. The table presents the space occupation statistics for Barcelona, sorted in descending order by the total amount of space occupation gain. At first glance, it can be seen that over 41% of gain of space occupation was performed by Iniesta, Sergio Busquets, and Lionel Messi. Notably, these three players occupy different positions and have different roles within the team. Suarez and Neymar, two highly mobile players, appear with a lower count of situations where space was gained. This can be associated with the high level of strictly closed marking these players suffered during the match. It is interesting to observe that for most players the active occupation of spaces is considerably more frequent than passive occupation. This is particularly noticeable on left and right backs Stein and Sergi Roberto, who need to cover wider spaces and show a high mean distance to ball, a characteristic shared by central defenders Piqué and Mascherano. This table presents the statistics for space occupation loss and space generation gain. The space occupation loss statistics show a clear tendency of higher space loss for players that are more often in possession of the ball, such as Iniesta, Messi, Neymar, and Suarez. The space loss can be directly associated with pressure by the opponent, who tends to increase density near to attacking players to reduce their range of action, especially for highly skilled players. Regarding the generation of space, we obtain a different picture from the space occupation skills. Here, Neymar and Suarez appear to be, alongside Messi, the players that most often drag opponents to create space. With a 4-3-3 system and high-quality players, a specific attacking strategy is that of spreading out attacking players to drag defenders out of position and provide wider spaces for attacking action.